Hello, my good friends in the universe, in the planets. My name is Roberto Valenzuela. I am a Canon Explorer of Light, and I am very fortunate and very glad that I was able to be one of the lucky people out there in the world to have my hands on a brand new Canon R6 Mark III, which is a highly anticipated camera. I've enjoyed watching all the rumors and all the YouTube videos of all the YouTubers talking about the camera and what they think it's going to have or what they think it's not going to have. And I see all these things, and I actually have the camera in my hands, and I can actually compare what they're saying to reality. And I just want to get right to it. This is not this. I don't want to get into just pure specs and pure technical things, which I will do, by the way. I will discuss all that because that's important. But I want to discuss how the specs itself will actually become a problem solver for you. What problems do these things solve? So the problem with talking about specs in a camera that's exciting is that everybody just talks about the specs and you just go blah, 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 blah. And you have no idea how this stuff actually applies to you. Like, how does this apply to you? Do you shoot quinceañeras? Do you shoot weddings? Do you shoot fashion, portraits, high school seniors, fine art? Do you shoot, still lifes? What the heck do you shoot? These specs have to match whatever you do. And the other thing that the spec should do is should open up opportunities that you may not expect. So let's get right to that. Number one, this Canon R6 Mark III is priced at an enthusiast level. It is a great value for the money, this camera. Really, that's the first thing that I would say. This is a beast of a camera for a camera that costs less than $3,000. No doubt. I mean, the capabilities of this camera, if this camera was $10,000, I would think about buying it because it's that good. But the fact that it is less than $3,000 is benefit number one. Benefit number two is this camera has open gate. Now, some of you don't know what open gate is. Some of you do because you're techies, and I just want to explain it very quickly. Open gate means that when you record video, the entire sensor is actually being opened up for recording. That's why it's called open gate. Why do they call it open gate? I have no idea. They could just call it full sensor recording. I don't know, but it's open gate. Sounds cool. So in a normal camera, for example, like this one, which is the Canon R5 Mark II, or the Canon R1, in this kind of camera, when you record, it removes part of the top and part of the bottom of the sensor, and it only records like the middle horizontal area. So that means that when you're trying to choose, when you're shooting video or you're trying to do BTS of a photo shoot you're doing or whatever you want to do recording for, you have to really make this decision that we all hate doing. Should I record horizontal or should I record vertical for social media? Well, when you have a camera that has open gates, that really does a great job in reducing that frustrating situation, because when you are recording the full sensor, you get a lot more information vertically now, because you now have the bottom and the top are now being used for recording as well. So the crop is not so tight where you're out of frame easily. I remember shooting when I do behind the scenes photos or videos here in my campaigns and here in my studio. I always have to tell the person recording the video to make sure that I am always right smack in the middle and I don't move because I don't want to be out of frame for socials. And it's very difficult for the person to record horizontally for YouTube or for whatever the clients may need. But then we try to crop it vertically. And when you crop it vertically, it creates like I'm out of frame 60% of the time because it's such a small little line that you have to fit inside. When you have an open gate camera like the R6 Mark III, because you have the top and the bottom fully recording, you have a lot more latitude in the vertical format. So now you don't have to worry so much about being in such a tight box. You actually have a wider area, which is still 16:9, perfect for Instagram, TikTok, or whatever you want to do. That is number one. The other thing that I think this camera is really cool for, the R6 Mark III, is that if you go to the menus, there's a menu on the red menu, the camera menu, that says display markers. And if you look for that display markers in the camera menu, which is the red menu, there is a section called display markers, which allows you to overlap vertical guides of where that 16:9 ratio or 9:16 ratio is going to exactly be for Instagram or for TikTok or whatever, for YouTube Shorts. So you will actually have you will actually have two little lines right here. And as long as the person is inside those vertical lines, you are golden. You're good to go. Those lines to me are so, they're just, they solve an issue because you don't have to guess where the vertical lines are going to be when you try to crop it for socials. You can just have it right there. You can see it. Now, of course, those lines are not baked into your footage. They're just there for a guide. Of course, when you export the video, those guides are not there. But when you are recording, those guides are there. And boy, are they useful. And if you want, you can even put horizontal guides too. I don't know why you would, but if you want to, you can. That's one of the things that this camera solves big time. The second one that I want to talk about is this camera actually has the Canon autofocus, the dual pixel CMOS autofocus 2. And this camera, to have that such an advanced autofocus system, one of the things I love about the R5 Mark II is its autofocus system, and I cannot go back to anything less than that. So when I found out that this camera has the the dual pixel CMOS autofocus 2 focusing system, I was like, amazing, good to go. No matter where the person goes, no matter where they move, no matter how many things get in front, it's a very intelligent autofocus system that's in the R5 Mark II, and it's also in the flagship in the R1. So who wouldn't want that on the R6 Mark III? So that's another huge benefit. They didn't downgrade the autofocus system at all. It's actually quite powerful. Number 3, this camera, unlike the R5 Mark II, which is amazing, and I love this camera shoots 30 frames per second. This camera can shoot 40 frames per second and still be focusing while it's recording at 40 frames per second. Now think about that. Now, that may not apply to you if you're not shooting certain things that might require that. But part of the fun about photography, in my opinion, is being able to expose yourself to things that you don't always do. Maybe you want to go out and shoot baseball. Maybe you want to shoot some birds. Maybe you want to shoot eagles. I have a friend who's a birder, and he's so into it. I want to try to shoot birds and see if I can get the eagle catching the fish in the ocean or whatever, just for fun. So having 40 frames per second is pretty amazing. It also has pre-capture, by the way. So it allows you to pre-capture something there. So before you push the shutter, at that defining moment, if you're pushing the shutter halfway, it is still actually recording whatever amount of photos, 20, 15, whatever you want, before you actually push the shutter to take that picture. So it has one of those incredibly important features that we have on Canon cameras like the Canon R1, but they also have it now on the R6 Mark III. So it allows you to do that pre-capture. So that's pretty cool. Some of the other really cool aspects of this camera that I really haven't seen much in a camera of this price, especially, is that for the first time, I see 24-bit audio recording. 24-bit audio recording is a hell of a lot better than before. So you get a lot more quality out of your sound, that you can get it right out of the memory card. So to me, that is super important. Audio is everything in video. And so to have a camera that shoots open gate, and it has open gate in 7K open gate. I mean, that is a lot, right? It also has 4K fine. So it's like oversampled footage. So it's a lot more clear. It's a lot sharper, a lot more details, contrast, all of that, because it can do oversampled 4K instead of regular resolution 4K. So because it has a 7K sensor, it has so much more information, it can compress that to a 4K resolution, and it gives you way better results. When you look at the video, it looks almost hyper real, looks amazing. So that is another great benefit. It also has one thing that I can't believe it also has, besides open gate, 7K, and the Canon dual focus CMOS autofocus 2, is that it also has C-Log 2 and C-Log 3. Now, of course, if you know what that means, everybody wants C-Log 2. C-Log 2 is like the standard flagship, I guess, gamma curve that people want for dynamic range. So if you want to get the ultimate out of this camera for dynamic range, you can put the camera in C-Log 2. And I'm surprised a camera of this price range has C-Log 2 in it. I would have thought it would only have C-Log 1 or C-Log 3, and they would skip C-Log 2 because that's on the R1 or in the R. So it's there. And I think that's super impressive. I don't know what else people could possibly want when you have a camera that's 7K. You have that incredible autofocus that Canon is famous for, the incredible color science that Canon is famous for, and nobody can beat no matter how hard you try. It's also a full RF mount on the R6 Mark III, which means it's opened up to all the lenses you could possibly want, including VCM lenses, which are this is a VCM lens right here, which allows you to change the aperture through the ring in the lens instead of always through the aperture wheel in the back. So it allows you to do that. So you basically have a very powerful beast of a camera. Now, the other thing is it has a full, this is also kind of rare. It has a full size HDMI input. Okay, look at that right there. I don't know if you can see it, but it has a full size HDMI. Now, I mean, I don't know what to tell you guys. That matters a lot to me because I can't stand micro HDMI cables. They pop out, they fall off, they break. And it's like, oh, come on. Can we just get a full size HDMI? They're sturdier, they're stronger, they're thick, they're bigger. They're more secure when you put them in the camera. They don't collapse as fast. That's just what you want. And that camera, on top of everything that I already said, it still has, they still included an HDMI, a full HDMI input right there on the camera. Another thing that this camera has, it still has zebra, he has waves, he has all the stuff that you would think that it's only for cinema camera. It's here. Now, why is that? Because for some amazing reason, thank you, Canon, they put the same sensor as the Canon C50, which is an actual cinema camera. It's like the little brother of the C80. They put the sensor of the C50 into this. Now, you're probably thinking, wow, so why should I get a C50 instead of an R6 Mark III? Well, no, the sensor might be the same, but the way it's programmed is for different purposes. The sensor for the C50 is dedicated more for video and for video users and everything that people need for video. And for this camera, it's combination of video and photography, which takes me to the next point. This camera is, in my opinion, the best hybrid camera I have seen, because of everything I just said. I mean, think about it. The Canon C50, which is the one that shares the sensor as the R6 Mark III, that one can take pictures too. It can take over 30 megapixel photos, which is cool, but it doesn't have an electronic viewfinder. So it's almost kind of like a convenience factor. Like, here you go. You can take, here's your cinema camera, but you can also take real 30 over 30, I think it's 32 megapixel photos raw. You can still take full amazing pictures. Okay. Who doesn't want that? That capability is amazing to have, but you're doing it kind of like as a convenience factor, like an afterthought, like not an afterthought, but like a convenience factor, right? It's not really made for photography, but you can take pictures. This camera is an actual photography camera, but instead of, look, there's like an electronic viewfinder, and it's pretty amazing, and it's good. It's got everything you want in a camera like the R5 Mark II, right? Because it still has, I think this camera still has 32 megapixels. So it's like the sweet spot, that perfect sweet spot. It's not too much. It's not too little. It's good for the web. It's good for print. It's good for magazines. So, like the Canon R1, it only has 24 megapixels. So people say, to me, that's plenty. That's enough. I shoot for print. I shoot for magazines, and the Canon R1 still does the job. So I don't know what the big complaint is with megapixels. But there are some people that do need to crop in their image quite a bit for print. Maybe you're photographing something quite far away, like people who shoot birds or animals or wildlife or safaris, and they do need to crop. And that crop becomes a problem if you only have a 24 megapixel. So, you have to think about that. So if you're going on a safari or you're going to shoot birds, this could be an amazing camera. But if you're going to be cropping in, you might want to bring the R6 Mark III, because this one has a hell of a lot more resolution, right? It has over 32 megapixels or more. Still full frame. So it's a full frame camera. And it can photograph also not 30 frames per second like this, like the R5 Mark II, but this camera can shoot 40 frames per second. I mean, 40 frames per second raw. While in the electronic shutter mode, of course, while the the camera is still focusing on your subject with AI servo. Imagine it's still tracking your subject for focusing, but it's doing that at 40 frames per second. It's almost like, how the heck could you miss a photograph when the camera is literally tracking the eyeball of the animal or your subject or your human subject and is photographing a 40 frames per second electronic shutter? It also has silent mode. So if you don't want to make any noise at all, you just the little white lines show up, and that little white lines telling you that it's taking pictures at 40 frames per second. I just took out my kids the other day after dinner, and I just wanted to take some photos of them running around and jumping like crazy, what they do, because they're 8 and 5. And it was so much fun to point the camera and then just basically point the camera in the general direction where they were running around. And it was that the focusing was just nailing the eyeball, no matter where they were moving, how fast they were moving. And I was taking 40 frames per second. I was literally just pushing the button and just letting it run. I probably took 300 pictures. I don't even know. But the pictures were sharp. And at that frame rate, it looked like a movie, but it was full resolution over 30 megapixel photos raw. Hard to beat that. And then when you put that on video, you still have the open gate 7K capability, oversampled 4K. You can do 4K 60p. I mean, you can do all these crazy things. And then you also have CMOS 2, which allows you to create much more dynamic range. So you don't have to clip highlights and shadows. I mean, gosh, it kind of has it all. It's pretty amazing. Now, another difference between the C50, which is a cinema camera, and this is, yes, it may have the same sensor, but of course the C50 is a dedicated cinema camera, which has internal cooling systems. Whereas the R6 Mark III, even though it is completely stacked for video, I mean, this camera for content creators is the king. Forget the G7X Mark III. I don't even know why people, that's like a TikTok trend to me. Great, fantastic. You want the real deal, you get the R6 Mark III for content creation, okay? This guy right here is just complete fire, in my opinion. But it doesn't have an internal cooling system. Canon has done a lot of stuff in the firmware and programming to help you record for a long time without overheating, but it's not going to compare to like a dedicated cinema camera with a huge fan in the back to cool the camera as you're recording. So if you're going to be recording for more than 45 minutes or an hour, you're doing a podcast or something, and you want this thing to just be going crazy at the highest resolution possible, you're probably not going to be, it might get hot. I don't know. I haven't tested it to that point, but so far in the videos that I have taken, it has never had a problem, not even close. So I think you can go quite a ways without having an internal fan in this camera. But the C50 obviously has an internal fan. It's about the same size as this, but that one is more like it's a pure cinema camera that allows you to take pictures, or stills, whereas this one is a true hybrid, in my opinion. And I don't mean that in a weird way. Like there's the R5C, for example, which they say is a true hybrid because it has the cinema menus and it also has the camera menus, and they're two different sets of menus. So when you flick the switch to video on the R5C, the entire operating system changes to a cinema camera. All the menus are different. Everything looks like a cinema camera. And when you put it on camera mode, everything switches back to the normal camera mode we're all used to. In this Canon camera, the Canon R6 Mark III, the menus don't change. The camera menu is the camera menu, and when you flip it to video, it stays in that camera menu, but it gives you the options for video. So there's that. Another thing that I want to talk about that I find super interesting is one of the things we do as content creators is be able to create cinematic footage and to do that, we need beautiful slow motion that's very smooth. Or to do beautiful, smooth, slow motion photos, video, you cannot have to do some math in your head. Like, okay, I want to shoot at 120 frames. What should my shutter speed be for that? And if you make a mistake on that math, it can get a little iffy and it can give you choppy results, or it can look jitterish in the final footage, and then you're really pissed because you might have missed what you wanted to do. In this camera, there's a little dial now called slow and fast, and they put it as S and F, which stands for slow and fast. I just put it on right now. When you put the camera on slow and fast, which just takes a microsecond to do, look at this. See, here's manual mode, and I can just go boop, boop, and now I'm on slow and fast. What that does is that the camera in the menu now, it gives you options that are very easy to do. Like you can say, I want fast motion, or I want 2 times slow motion, or 0.5 slow motion, or 1 time what or 1.5x slow motion, or whatever you want to do. And it does all the math for you. It makes it so that people that are creating and they're in the middle of the moment, they're not sitting there having to stop to do their math, because the camera can do it for you. And remember, you can do all of this in C-Log too. So not only are you getting the ability to create really beautiful, smooth, slow motion video without doing any math, it can do it for you. You can also do it with the highest dynamic range that you can possibly have with C-Log 2. So, I mean, those are some of the things that to me make a big difference. Okay, so these are the things that to me are the big winners here. Okay, open gate, 7K, oversample 4K, slow and fast motion dial right there on the camera. So if you're doing something, you can do it quickly in slow motion. You don't have to do any math. You don't have to do it for you. The sensor has over 32 megapixels for photography. It has C-Log 2 for video, so it has the highest dynamic range. Still has an RF mount. It's still a full frame sensor. It still has a flippable screen in every direction. It's easy to control. It's not that big. This is an incredible package for a price tag that's less than $3,000. It's really hard to not have this camera in your bag, in my opinion, because it's kind of like the king of all the things that most people use for the most incredible price I have ever seen. For example, the R5 Mark II shoots less frames per second. Not that it matters, but to some people they matter. It might matter, right? It has more resolution. It has 45, but still 32 or whatever is like the sweet spot anyway. 45 may be too much for people. The R5 Mark II is great. It's my favorite camera, but it doesn't have open gate. It doesn't have 7K. It doesn't have that open gate capability. So it doesn't give you those vertical lines, whereas this one does. The R1 is purely made for people that cannot afford to miss the shot. It's purely for speed. It's got a much lower resolution, only 24 megapixels. Yes, it's got very clean files. It's got, because it's 24 megapixels, it looks good in darker areas, higher ISOs. It can handle that better. But this is designed for photojournalists, people that are shooting motorsports, people that are shooting birds, people that are shooting sports, football, basketball, track and field, Olympics, that kind of stuff. Would I use this for portraits? Yes, of course I would, but that's more of the R5 domain. If I'm doing my fashion shoots, I'm going to be using R5. However, if I need a backup camera for my fashion shoots, I'm not going to use the R1. I'm going to use the R6 Mark III for fashion campaigns, because this still gives you almost everything the R5 does in terms of power, but it also gives you a stacked craziness in the video department. So if you have a dedicated person that's recording video for you when you're doing things, you give them the R6 Mark III and it's going to be fire for you. Complete fire. Let me know in the comments what else you guys would like to know about. I am actually skipping a lot of things. Like, for example, that it does have in-body image stabilization. It does have IBIS, and I think it's something 6.5 or something like that of stops of image stabilization. I'm looking at my notes. It still has long op. It still has the all eye options for video recording. It does have 24-bit audio. That's the other thing. Instead of a lower 16-bit or 12-bit audio, whatever this one does, this one has 24-bit audio. And as you know, audio is everything, in a camera, in video. So audio is to video what lighting is to photography. So there is that. Now, I don't believe any other camera here has 24-bit audio. I think this one is the one that does. So there's a huge advantage there. So that's it. I would love to know in the comments what you guys think about it. I'm not going to talk about random things like, how good the electronic viewfinder is. I mean, who cares? They're all going to be good. I want to talk about the stuff that matters and what problems this camera actually solves and how it can fit into your workflow. And to me, this is kind of like an overall king of the world that can kind of do it all. It's like incredible for social media because it's small and it has all this stuff. It's great for professional work because it's got a full frame sensor. It's great for video because it's got 7K and it has C-Log 2. The photography side, it can shoot 40 frames per second. It's got the crazy autofocus system in there. It's got the slow and fast dial in it. So I don't know. To me, when I saw the camera in my hands and I started looking at the menus and studying it, I couldn't believe how packed of features this camera is. And I think you would agree. Okay. Now, one thing that I saw on the Canon, on the rumors and all these different things that people post on YouTube, does it have the accelerators processor inside this? And it does not. That's one of the things that it doesn't have. It still has the DigicX processor in it, but it doesn't have the accelerator. So, it's not going to have everything that the flagship R1 has, of course, because this is more than double the price, right? So, but this one has pretty much everything you need. I mean, what are the chances that you're going to need the accelerator? You probably won't. And in this camera, you can still record people's faces and give them a priority. So if you're photographing a wedding and you can record the bride's face in the camera, it will actually focus and find the bride for you and focus on her. No matter who's walking in front or who's moving or whatever, it will remember who she is. And when the camera sees her face, it will go into the algorithm here and basically focus right on her face, right on her eyes. So that's really cool. All right. That's it. Comment, like, subscribe, whatever you want to do. I'm enjoying making these. These are fun to make. I do have, sometimes, not always, I have early access to cool gear. So if you guys want to be almost first to know about what's happening, then subscribe to the channel and put the bell, because then you will know exactly what's going on before most people do. I'm also a Canon Explorer of Light, so I have a little bit more information than just people making assumptions and rumors. I can actually hear it from the horse's mouth and tell you exactly what it is. And so that's it for the Canon R6. If you have any questions, put it in the comments. I will be looking at the comments and answering them. The next thing I want to talk about, which is very, very exciting, is the new Canon 45 millimeter 1.2 STM. Yeah, STM, but 1.2. Now, let me switch to that so you guys can see what that looks like. Because, guys, this is so amazing to have. This is a 45 millimeter 1.2 lens. When have you seen any camera company, maybe I'm wrong, so tell me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen any other camera company create a lens that costs less than $500. Okay, I believe this is around $469. Less than $500, 1.2. And look how light it is. Look how light this is. I'm barely grabbing it. I'm barely touching it. Okay, that is a 1.2 lens for less than $500. And you wonder, well, what's the catch? Is it sharp? Of course it's sharp. Canon would never release a lens that's not sharp. It's sharp as heck. I've been taking photos of my kids with that lens, and it is incredibly sharp, okay? It might not be as fast as the focusing on the L series lenses. For example, this will be the big brother of it. This is the 50 millimeter 1.4 VCM. VCM is the lenses that have the aperture ring right there. So it's a lot smoother to do video on this because you don't get that click, 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 click from rotating the aperture wheel, right? This one here. You can just be smooth sailing while you're changing the aperture, and you can get darker and brighter in a very smooth way. I love these lenses. They seem to be lighter weight, but this is the big brother of that. This is 50 millimeters 1.4. This is 45 millimeters, but 1.2. and they're both sharp as heck. Okay, it's hard to tell the difference. I'm sure if you look at it with a freaking microscope, you might see a tiny difference, but especially if you have good light and stuff, or even regular light, is you're not going to be able to tell the difference. The only time you might tell the difference is if you're like one of those crazy people, is on the focusing speed. Might not be like that microsecond, like, but it will be like 1 millisecond behind. That's it. So it's like, it doesn't really matter. But to have a lens that weighs nothing, it has a very small footprint. I mean, this thing can fit in your pocket. Have you seen the Canon RF 1.2 L series lens? It's like this big with a hood. I mean, that thing is like chunky like that. You're not going to put that in your pocket, but you'll put this in your pocket because this weighs nothing. Woo, how light is that thing? I'm telling you, when Canon sent me this thing, I was just like, oh, 45 STM, so it's not an L series. Don't knock it. Do not knock it. Not because it's not an L series doesn't mean it's a great lens. This lens is sick. When I go on vacations with my family, I'm taking my 45 1.2 STM. I'm taking this baby. This baby doesn't give me any weight issues. It weighs nothing. It's not bulky. It's not huge. I can put this in my wife's bag if I need to, and it won't be like taking over her entire bag. And be able to shoot at 1.2, you get that smooth, milky, chocolatey, Swiss, beautiful chocolate bokeh in the background, and only for a price tag of less than $500. What are you gonna do, people? What are you going to do? I am very excited about what's happening, and I can't believe it. There's a 1.2 lens that weighs less than $500. That's this little. I love 50 millimeters 1.2. This is basically a 50 millimeters 45. So I'm like right there on that beautiful focal length. And for the price, I mean, you could really, for the money you're saving, you could almost buy two R6 Mark. I mean, not obviously not, but you can put that money that you're saving towards the R2, another R6 Mark III body. I don't know. I find this to be very exciting times. I find that Canon is really doing a great job with listening to content creators and people that are photographers and people who may not be able to buy 3 or 4 dedicated cameras for specific things. If you don't want to be buying 3 or 4 cameras for specific things, you just get the R6 Mark III and it kind of does it all, right? It kind of does it all really well. It has pretty much everything you need. And I'm excited. So let me know what you guys think. Put it on the comments. I do want to hear the comments. I know people say that just to get the algorithm to show up more. I don't really care about the algorithm. I actually care about what you think. And I mean that honestly. You can just listen to this video, not subscribe. I don't care. But I do care about what you think. I'm excited to respond to the comments. I will respond. I would love to have a dialogue and a conversation with you about it. Just because, we're nerds, right? Like we're gear nerds. So we're gearheads and we want to talk about it. If I just sit in and there's no comments, the conversation's over. So write something, Also, don't forget, guys, to go to the photo creators website. And it's right here because I do have my own conference, the photocreators.com. Make sure you go to the photocreators.com. Check out the entire website because this year is June 1st to June 4th. We have amazing speakers coming to teach. You can go and click on the educators that are coming. Here's the instructors. Okay, we have Jerry, we have Victoria, Chris Fain from Profoto, Vanessa Rivera. Oh, she's a genius, guys. We have myself, Claudia Rashke from Canon. She's a Canon Explorer of Light. We're going to be doing an actual movie at a movie studio. We have Michael Hollander, Vincent Roger from Hanemuli, Nick Ryan from Canon teaching printing. Here's our sponsors. It's going to be so amazing. So, guys, it's in Tucson, Arizona. It is a boutique conference. Everybody's together all day. You're never going to make more friends than at the Photo Creators. You're never going to be able to get to know the people behind the companies better than at the Photo Creators because you're having drinks, you're having wine, you're having dinner, breakfast, and lunch with them. They are in your classes. They are hanging out with you. Then we have the expo where you can actually not only get to know them, but touch the gear, see the gear, discuss the gear. Then we can go to the bar. There's only one bar at the ranch. It's called the Tanque Verde Guest Ranch. And you can keep having beers or hanging out with the company representatives and the instructors and talk to them about whatever you may want to do. We hire professional agency models. We have a stylist that brings clothes that you from New York Fashion Week. We have models that most people wouldn't have access to because they come from agencies. Because I have a relationship with these agencies and because we do so much with them, they give me a break to bring these very expensive models to the photo creators. And I think it's a blessing because when you're going to a class like this, why not photograph incredible looking people that you wouldn't have access to most likely with styling that comes from New York Fashion Week and stuff like that in a dude ranch in Tucson, Arizona. Oh, it is just a fantastic experience. So check it out. Here are the hotel rooms. It's just such a fun time, guys. Don't miss out. The tickets are not even that expensive. And if you buy your tickets now, you buy your airplane ticket now to Tucson, Arizona, it's not that expensive at all. So let's just be smart about it. In the meantime, thank you for joining me. And again, whether you subscribe or not, at least I ask you to make a comment so we can have a conversation. Thank you so much for listening to this. And if you do get an R6 Mark III, congrats, enjoy it, and keep me posted on Instagram or whatever. My Instagram is Roberto_photo. Take care, guys, and see you next time. Bye.